Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from everyone as we're trickling into the Zoom room today. Where are you from? If you could let us know in the chat. We'd love to know where you're joining us today. Hopefully, we meant state of where you're joining us, city and state, but hopefully some of you are maybe at a pool, maybe on a patio, or maybe your air-conditioned living room because it's summertime. Hi from Missouri. Awesome. I'm from Kansas City originally, so that's awesome. Ooh, Canada, from Minnesota, Indiana, Elkhart. I've been there before in Indiana. Amazing. We've got Iowa. What are you seeing, Jeanette?
I'm seeing California, a lot of Illinois, more California, Alabama. I'm from South Florida, Massachusetts, Jamaica. Did see a Canada as well, a couple of Virginias. What do you got, Katie?
I see South Florida, Rochester, New York. I'm in New York City. I saw someone else said upstate New York, so that's awesome to hear. Pennsylvania, another New York City. Awesome. I'm in Brooklyn if you're also in the city. Another Rochester, Illinois, Glens Falls, New York. I've been there many times. We've got Colorado. Thanks, everyone. That's awesome. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Katie Shelton. Thank you for joining us for this webinar today. I am an educator and partnership consultant with Reading Horizons. In my role, I work with and support schools and districts across the country who are implementing the Reading Horizons structured literacy curriculum. So we have another chat question for you. I know that only we can see the chat currently, so I'll read out your responses. But since the topic of the discussion is AI today, we'd love to hear from you first. What is your experience with using AI tools like ChatGPT? Maybe you've never touched them before in your life. You have no idea what they do. You have no experience with them. That's fine. Maybe you just use it for fun stuff. Like the other day, I might have used the prompt of what would my dog look like as a human in GPT just for fun. Maybe you're using it in your daily routine already. What do you think? We've got someone already said, Linda said it's time saving. Stephanie said, I only see AI summaries when I Google things. Absolutely. You might already be seeing it and you're not necessarily using it, but it's already coming up. Heather's tried it a few times. Lori's new to it. Natalie's only used a little bit, couple of test uses. Angelica says ChatGPT is her bestie, her best friend. I love that. Have done it for a few reasons in the chat. Have used it for assistance with creating social media posts. I use it for the same reason. I love it. Michaela uses it for emails. We've got enhancing lesson plans for ESL. Cool. I have an idea for that as well today. Victoria said use it frequently for school and research. Ooh, research is a really good way to use your GPT. I love it. Someone else said it's my bestie, my best friend, use on occasion, very helpful. And some said minimal. I love it. Thank you all so much for sharing in the chat. Ooh, and someone said brainstorming, another fabulous idea. Thank you for sharing. Now, my AI journey has been one of, I would say, skepticism, curiosity, and exploration. So, as you see here, this is a picture of me when I was in my classroom when I was teaching fourth grade. This is way before I knew how to use AI tools, they weren't even around yet. I was laughing, crying because it was emoji day at my school, it was Spirit Day. And I probably was also really crying quite a bit because I was spending a lot of my prep time, a lot of nights and weekends scouring the internet, trying to find extra resources, and it was taking me forever and I was exhausted. So I would have loved some time-saving tools when I was in my own classroom. Now, AI started to be a topic of conversation a couple of years ago, right? Robots becoming more helpful in our daily lives was a topic of conversation, and I was in full skeptic mode. I actually was talking to the CEO of our company, Tyson Smith, about 2 years ago, and he asked me, Katie, how do you feel about AI and the future of AI in education? And my exact response was, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I know that for a fact because I have seen how many times my mom's Roomba has run into corners in her house or gotten stuck in toilet paper. So I simply do not buy that this AI or these robots will be smart enough to help me with education anytime soon. So we'll call this my skeptic era of time. Now, last year, I began starting to play around with ChatGPT, like some of you said that you occasionally use it. I would get really frustrated when it would shoot back an answer to me that was incorrect or wrong or not what I wanted. I think what finally helped me to buy into GPT was the concept that you can train your chat GPT, your AI bot. We have to teach it, right? And that's a concept that many of us are familiar with is helping a hand and lending that educational expertise to this tool. So I started to prompt back to my GPT in certain ways. I'd get more specific. I'd help correct it. And what I saw was my GPT was getting better and more helpful with time, which led me to where I am today, a convert. I should have put a picture of like a best friend here, like some of you said in the chat, that now ChatGPT is my bestie. Um, AI helps me to save a ton of time. And for teachers, we know that time is the most precious thing. And that's what we're here to talk about today, some time saving hacks. I saw some of you put this in the chat, and this is a motto I follow as well. The motto is never start from scratch. We can use GPT to help us to brainstorm, help us to organize our thoughts so that we're not just staring at a blank piece of paper getting frustrated. And then I always go back through with my teacher critical lens and help edit and review anything I need to within it, which leads me to some AI gotchas. Like any tool, AI is imperfect. It maybe is sometimes it's like my mom's Roomba getting stuck in corners. Our AI bots, it does require teacher oversight to avoid inaccuracies, bias, and what's called hallucinations, which is when AI generates plausible but incorrect information. So here are some key challenges and tips to overcome them for using AI in your classroom. The first one we've already talked about, you have to verify accuracy with that GPT. It may contain errors or those inconsistencies. So just always review that information before putting it in front of students and edit if needed. We do also want to make sure to check for bias and cultural sensitivity. We know that AI reflects the biases of its training data. So I'll show you some ways that we can prompt today to specify some cultural context ahead of time. And then we always want to make sure to review those answers for any stereotypes before we put it in front of students. The next thing that is super important, if you've done your yearly training yet on FERPA and all things student privacy, when we're using our ChatGPT and our AI, we want to maintain student privacy. AI should not store personal student data. And as you all know, we have to be mindful of FERPA. So avoid input any sensitive student information. For example, with your prompts, don't put in any student scores with names tied to it. And everything we're doing today will avoid student data and any private student information. So I'll show you some ways we can do it while still maintaining that privacy. We also want to balance AI with your teacher expertise. AI should enhance, not replace your teacher judgment. So use AI as a support tool while maintaining active lesson planning and instruction oversight. And then another really important one that I'm very passionate about, AI is not replacing your curriculum. Everything I'm showing you today are extra ideas that you can use alongside a strong evidence-based curriculum. Everything we're doing today is tied to additional practice and reinforcement of the skills that you are explicitly teaching in your classroom. And by the way, if you don't have a structured literacy curriculum in place yet, I do have free access to something at the end, so stay tuned. I might have a solution for you there. And like I said before, you have to train your AI, you have to teach it. Now, when I was prepping for our time today, I was working on a prompt where I said, okay, I want you to create a phoneme blending activity with the names of popular landmarks in Chicago. And this was for first grade students. The first time I put that into GPT, it gave me words like institute, museum, millennium. And I said, yikes, absolutely not. So I just had to remind my GPT, hey, can you please try that again? This is for first grade students. Give me some better first grade appropriate words. And then it came back with words like bus, lake, and flag. So again, don't be shy. Let your GPT know how it can improve. Now, ChatGPT is not the only AI bot, but it is the most commonly used one. Always make sure to check your school or district's tech requirements before using it on campus. When you're logging in, some schools and districts maybe have a district account, and so maybe you can log into it with your district SSO. Great thing to ask your tech support about before you start using it. Once you've checked your school requirements, you can simply go to chatgpt.com and start prompting. Some of you maybe are already doing this at home on a personal account. I even have the app on my phone, so I can use it right from my phone as well. So now I'm going to walk you through ideas for 3 different areas for your reading lesson prep to save you some time. We're going to have some time-saving hacks for phonemic awareness, decoding, and vocabulary. I am going to give you a list of ideas, but then I'm actually going to show you what I actually gave to my GPT as a prompt, and I'll show you the real responses that my GPT shot back to me. For those of you note takers in the audience, if you're like me, we are going to share all of these ideas with you all in a consolidated place in our follow-up. We're also going to share the recording, so don't feel like you have to keep up by notes with every single one of these hacks. We'll give them to you all at the end. All right, first up is phonemic awareness. In our classrooms with our reading instruction, phonemic awareness means being aware of the smallest units of speech. So maybe we're isolating individual sounds, we're blending sounds together. It's a really crucial building block for helping our students move from speech to print, especially in grades kindergarten and first grade. We can use GPT for some extra activities and practice, helping our students to tune into those speech sounds. So the first one is for some time-saving hacks. In the younger grades for phonological awareness, like pre-K and kindergarten, we can use it to generate some rhyming activities. The prompt you could use is generate a list of 10 simple words that rhyme with cat and create 2 short rhyming poems featuring these words. You can use it to create some sound matching games, such as create a list of 10 words that start with B and 10 that start with S for a sound matching activity. It's great for providing some word mapping lists, and this is the one I'm going to show you here in a moment. I could say, for example, list 10 common CVC words and separate into each individual sound for a phonemic awareness activity. Or, like I mentioned earlier, you can use it for culturally relevant tasks such as create a phoneme blending activity with names of popular landmarks in Chicago with first grade age appropriate words, or maybe you're using your home state or city, or tie it to your knowledge building unit in class or another content area there. So I chose the idea for word mapping in my GPT, and I wanted my chat to create a list of words that I could use with Elkonin boxes at the teacher table. If my class was focusing on the digraph CH in our foundational literacy curriculum, here's a prompt I could use that would tie to it. I want 10 common CVC words, consonant vowel consonants, and separate into each individual sound for a phonemic awareness activity. And I'd like to focus on the digraph ch. And here's the list I got. So I got 10 words I could print out really easily and have ready to go at my teacher table. And then if the GPT gave me a pattern that we maybe haven't worked on yet, maybe it's too complex for my students at the time, I could simply prompt back and say, hey, can you remove those long vowels words? We haven't practiced that quite yet. Or maybe that gives me a word with an ending digraph. Maybe I want to change that. You can always get more tailored and more specific with it. Or maybe GPT uses a word that your students aren't familiar with. There are a lot of words out there that are highly decodable, but are not super regular in our oral language. And so I could always prompt it back and say, hey, I'd like only real, decodable, age appropriate CVC words. The more specific you are, the more specific your answers are going to be to meet your needs. Next up is decoding. There are a ton of time savers when it comes to extra decoding practice. This is important because we know what is taught in isolation stays in isolation. I heard a speaker say recently, how do we get better at running? We lace up, like, let me try that again. We lace up our sneakers and we go for a run, right? How do we get better at reading? We read. So we need lots and lots and lots of reading practice and opportunities for our students. I know I was always looking for more decodable text and more word lists for my classroom. So this is where we can use GPT to help. I could use it to create skill-focused text, such as create a simple story using only CVC words focusing on the short I sound. I could use it to generate some phonics-based word lists, maybe for extra dictation words for extra practice. I could say create a list of single-syllable words following this pattern: chat, chop, chip, chug. Maybe you noticed my pattern already. I could have my GPT provide some blending and segmenting opportunities, such as provide a list of CVC and BL words for a blending game where students match pictures with words. Or I could use it to create some culturally relevant decodables, such as write a simple story using 90% CVC words, focusing on a blended family preparing for Hanukkah using short vowel sounds. Now, for my prompt, I wanted to create a simple story for me. This was for a first grade classroom. And as you can see with the amount of text on the screen, I wanted to give my GPT as much background information as possible. I wanted to get really specific here, so I got the best possible response on the first try. So I wrote, write a simple story focusing on the initial digraphs CH and SH because I had just taught those for first grade students. At this point, my students have only learned short vowel sounds, so please only use words with short vowels. My students have learned the first 20 fry words for most common words, so I wanted to see some extra practice words in there for most common words. And I said, please make this story about a habitat if you can. We've been learning about habitats. Please try to limit the number of non-decodable words. Now, remember, when it comes to GPT, for something to be truly decodable, it needs to align with your explicit phonics scope and sequence. So this won't be as decodable as what I'm using with my curriculum provided text, but could be good for a little extra practice. So let's see what we got. And this was what I prompted, and this is immediately what I got back. So we have Chip and the Shell Hut. Chip is a chubfish. Chip can swim in the sun. He has a big wish. I wish for a hut, said Chip. A hut in the sand. Chip got a shell. The shell had a chip, but Chip did not mind. Such a hut, said Chip. Shh, I will sit in it. A crab ran to the hut. Shh, said Chip. This is my shell hut. The crab got a shell too. Now Chip and the crab sit, they sit in the sun. Not bad, right? For a GPT on the first try. Now, the first thing you might think if you're like me is, what is a chubfish, right? I was like, maybe some of you knew that. I did not know that. So I just immediately asked my GPT right back, what is that? And it said, well, a chubfish is a common name for several freshwater fish, especially those in the minnow family. Who knew? Thanks, ChatGPT. So I could immediately go over that little quick vocabulary lesson with my students. And then we know it's great for my students to practice reading with decodable text, but we will also want to add in some comprehension work, some vocabulary work. So as your teacher lens, what are you already looking at in this passage? We could cover multiple meaning words because we have Chip being used as a name here of one of the characters. And we also have the shell had a chip. So I want to make sure to go over with my students the difference between those two and how I can tell the difference when I'm reading. Great chance to practice prosody and expression with my students with lines like, shh, I will sit in it, or this is my shell hut, and talk about why I'm emphasizing certain parts. And I can even cover problem and solution with this passage. What was the problem? Chip wished for a hut to live in. Solution, Chip got a shell to live in, which became his hut or home. Another opportunity for vocabulary. And then what you can't see on your screen is that my GPT actually automatically called out for me. Here are all of the skill words in your text, and here are all of the most common words in your text. So I could have that list ready to go. I could have my students do a skill scan where they go and highlight all of these skill words in advance. If you have any students that are overwhelmed by the length of this passage, they could just go read those skill words, whisper read those to themselves first, and then tackle the whole passage together. So I thought that was really helpful that my GPT did that without me even asking. All right, next up is vocabulary. I could use my GPT to generate a thematic vocabulary list, such as create 15 vocabulary words suitable for third graders learning about ecosystems. I could use it to create some contextual sentences, such as using the words habitat, predator, and adaptation in sentences appropriate for second graders. I could use it to create synonym and antonym activities for my figurative language lessons. I could say I'd like you to provide me a list of 10 adjectives with 2 synonyms and 2 antonyms for each, or create some culturally relevant vocabulary activities such as give me 10 vocabulary words related to traditional foods and celebrations in Asian Indian culture. And then I had one more for vocabulary. I could use it to create accessible vocabulary stories, such as create a short story for fourth graders using the words explore, discover, ancient, and artifact. Now, for this one, I decided to use GPT to help me create vocabulary words around a thematic unit. I said, give me 5 vocabulary words suitable for first graders learning about ocean habitats. Please include student-friendly definitions in a sample sentence. And here's what it gave me. So I instantly have ocean, habitat, coral, fish, and shell. I have those student-friendly definitions and sentences, and I could use that for a word map activity with my class. I can even take this one step further. Some of you in the chat mentioned working with ESL students or multilingual learners. I could immediately ask GPT. I could say, hey, I have a lot of students in my class that speak Spanish. So I want you to go ahead and give me all of those words in Spanish. That way I'm tying it to their home language. This will help students to make connections between the new vocabulary word and a word that they might already have access to in their home oral language, giving them a good advantage to tie the new to the known. So, great way to take your GPT even one step further. Okay, I threw a lot of ideas at you in the last 20 minutes. I would love to hear what's one idea you're going to take back to your classroom and try. Maybe it's one of the prompts you saw today, or maybe this inspired a new idea for you to go try. So let's hear it in the chat. Let's see. Translations, love it. Getting the Spanish translations of words again. Love it, love it. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Alicia. Thematic vocabulary, create vocabulary in multiple languages. Thank you, Michaela, for sharing the ideas with your colleagues. I love it. Refine responses for age appropriate for students. Love it, Linda. Creating a vocabulary paragraph, decoding passages, generating word lists, vocabulary, more word mapping exercises, April said. Cheryl said vocabulary. Heather's going to use it to try to create some decodable passages. Carla said using AI for science and phonics, but we'll try sentences and making passages. I love it. Angelica said creating reading passages that directly relates to their reading abilities. Linda said creating games and stories. I love it. Teaching vocabulary, all the ideas. I love it. Thank you, Victoria. Culturally relevant decodables, Jen said. And then Kathleen said, and we didn't talk about writing today, creating writing response prompts based on reading passages. Yes, I love it. And Mary said, as a coach, she's going to share this with her teachers. Thank you. I love it. And then one more, Bertha said, creating different stories for ELL students with same vocabulary words, but at different levels. Great job. I love all the ideas. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. You've got my brain going. After the webinar, we're going to send all of you a few free resources. For starters, as I already mentioned, you'll get a recording of the webinar. So especially if some of you wanted to share it with others, you are welcome to do that when we send out this recording. Anyone else who might benefit from some AI tips and tricks. You'll also receive our AI readiness checklist for schools and district. This is going to cover key areas to consider such as strategy, training, data privacy, and ethics. And then lastly, we consolidated all of those hacks for you in one place. So you will get a quick resource guide. You'll receive that as well. Again, feel free to keep it to yourself or share it with all of your friends at school. Feel free to disperse it out as you see fit, whoever might need help with this. Now, thank you for joining us today. Before we wrap up, we have two ways you can learn more about Reading Horizons. First, if you're looking for a solution for your school or district, soon, mine just popped up, soon you'll see a little pop-up come up. Answer yes to the question of on your screen and our team will reach out to you. If you're watching this recording or not attending live, you won't see the poll question that we popped up just now. But if you're interested in having someone reach out to you, simply email us at info@readinghorizons.com. Now, I mentioned this earlier. If you're a teacher and you would like to start using Reading Horizons in your classroom, maybe this summer if you have a late summer school, or maybe this fall, we are offering free access, my favorite word, free access to the Reading Horizons Teacher Edition, which does include the entire year's scope and sequence of lessons. So just scan the QR code on your screen right here, and you can click Start Now for Free button. It takes less than a minute to sign up, and you are all ready to start teaching and accessing full lessons immediately. So check it out. And then once again, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me today on your summer break. Hopefully you still have much more summer break to enjoy. I hopefully moved some of you out of your AI skeptic era, and I'm hoping these tips save you some time with your summer. We ended about 6 minutes early, so I'm hoping to get you back to the pool or a patio or something fun, something enjoyable, maybe a good book. So thank you all so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. So excited to try the ideas. Thank you, everyone. Awesome. Great to see you all.